A major, major component of self-mastery is detachment. If you can't detach from triggering things, you aren't going to make it because you have to be able to detach, cut the emotional cords from anything that is keeping you in that old identity, keeping you in the identification of the trigger. Because when you feel an emotional attachment to something like a trigger, it brings you back to that old story every time. Like if you have an emotional attachment to money and you have a money trigger, you're going to go back to that old story of lack, that old identification of lack and limitation. You associate, you identify with that person. Detach from these emotional connections to these triggers. Cut the emotional cords. Literally, I cut the cords. I pull it out of me. If you stay stuck with these attachments, like Spider-Man shooting its web, out and being connected to all these things that emotionally trigger you back into your old identity, into identifying with the old identity, the ego mind. I know it's super hard because the ego wants to cling to that story because it wants to feel justified, but you got to detach and move on. And that's when you bring in your power back to yourself, because all those webs that you've cast to these emotional attachments to this identity now get severed, and that power can come back to you to use for your commanding of your ultimate reality.